I should videotape this seriously because everything I just told you, it really makes sense. Because if you're going to be, I'm going to be, so if you're going to be a doctor and if you're going to be like, what do you say, quantum medicine? Quantum medicine. So you're going to study it. So you're just going to have a different tools to approach people to heal them. Yes. With FAIR technique, what we do, we find out what's the cause of a problem. When there's no cause, there's no consequences. But regardless, through the session, people find out a couple of things. First of all, they find out that all the answers are already within them. Because we have one part of a session where people talk to their older 20-year-old version of themselves, which already has all the answers because, 20 years later, you don't have that issue anymore. So you understand that all the answers are within you. You also heal your 20 young child within you, the child within that most people lost touch with, lost total connection with themselves. So once you heal that, from that point on, when you accept and start loving that child within yourself, you're basically healing yourself and you're accepting yourself in general. Most people reject themselves, who they are. They're identified with something and they love that identification, but they forgot who they really are. Also, through FAIR technique, you're also finding out your core self, in a sense, like who you really are. So when you remove all the constructs, because you will understand that everything that you invest your energy in, that you are creating. That's what I told you a minute ago. So you're always a creator. That's two things are given to you, creator and a free will. So you're always creating. So when I mean creating, you can create based on love, which is your conscious desire, what you want to create. Or you can create on suppressed content like emotions, thoughts, defeating limiting beliefs, or whatever that is. So most of the time we create from our suppressed limiting beliefs or self-defeating, self-sabotaging content. And when you're creating from that place, which is suppressed content or fear, basically, you are creating reality in which certain suppressed content needs to be integrated. What I mean by integration, everything that exists in this duality, we call it Trinity, because everything that exists has its opposite polarity. Yeah. In order for you to be good, it has to be somebody who's bad. In order for you to be smart, it has to be somebody who's stupid. Otherwise you cannot experience yourself as, wealthy, smart, beautiful, whatever, unless you have the opposite in your reality. But so that's duality, two polarities, one and the opposite one. So there are two polarities. But what makes the game happening of this life, it's energy and emotional charge between these two polarities. So it's like a seesaw. One moment you are down, one moment you are up, or one moment you're smart, or another moment you're dumb. So and what makes the game of seesaw happening, it's energy and emotional charge. With these techniques, what we do, we remove that energy and emotional charge and they become one, which they were from the very beginning. It's like a coin with two sides. Do you see what I'm saying? One side of a coin is positive, one side of a coin is negative, or whatever, but it's the same coin. It's like a magnet. Your human being, it has electromagnetic field. So your electromagnetic field has plus and minus. That's what quantum medicine will teach you. Yeah. That's how you're going to heal people, through energy field. But there's something besides the electromagnetic field. It's chi, prana, the life force, the God particle in each of us. So that's something that actually heals, not electromagnetic field necessarily. Although electromagnetic field, once it's balanced, and how you fastest way to balance your electromagnetic field is, or your prana chi, is when you get the same activation of your left and right brain hemisphere. So when your left and right brain hemisphere are equally activated, then you come to the place of oneness. We call it place of oneness, but basically it's a place of here and now. Experience the internal now. So when your left and the right brain hemisphere are equally activated, you are in a moment of presence of now, or presence of oneness. In spirituality they call it oneness, and in psychology we say presence of internal now. You're always in here now. That doesn't last forever. The more you practice this, the more you get into the presence of now. So going back to creation, you are always creating. But when you do the FAIR technique, through the process, you understand that it's a construct, that is your construct. And the reason why you create it is because you have these suppressed emotions that wants to be integrated, because everything that exists in this duality or trinity has beginning and has the end. Yeah. Your body has beginning and the end. Emotion has the beginning and the end. So every emotion and feeling. It's here for the purpose of what? To be recognized. I'm recognizing you, and I'm, how do you call it? Giving you awareness that you exist. And then it's here to be experienced. So once it's completely experienced, then it's integrated and it's gone. So it's beginning and the end. But the reason why we don't feel good is because we're culturally conditioned that you have to be nice and sweet, and the negative emotions, you're not supposed to feel negative emotions. But array of emotions, everybody's familiar with every single emotion. Nobody's foreigner to any emotion, plus or minus, negative or positive. But we interpret them as a negative because culturally conditioning, like, I'm not supposed to be mad, angry, sad, or whatever, But actually that anger is what gives you the movement for change. But the reason why you coming to a situation where you feel more and more angry is because you never allow that anger to be integrated. So what happens? Let's say let's say you have 3 years old. You're playing with your toys, and then some authority, your mom or dad, comes along and tears that apart, like puts it down, but they're angry. In that moment, the normal reaction is for you to be angry, but you choose not to, so you suppress the anger, because if you do show the anger, you might get beaten up. So you consciously suppress that anger and you say, oh, I'll deal with that later. That later never shows up, never comes up. So that anger is suppressed on the level of a 3-year-old. You grow, you're like 7, 10, 20, 30, 50 years old, but that anger is still stuck on a reference point of the child of a 3-year-old child. So what happens, that anger wants to be integrated. Like everything else that has a beginning, has the end. So that anger creates circumstances in your life, not other people. Other people are just our own mirrors. We never have relationships with other people. We only have a relationship with our constructs and projections that we have about these other people, who are necessary for us to play the unconscious game, or integration of the stuff that we hold in prison in our unconscious because we do not want to identify with that anger. I'm just using anger as an example. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anger chooses the moment when you least expect it. It never happens when you're ready for the anger. It always happens when you're in a nice, sweet mood, and then when you have a least control over your moment, that's when something happens, the anger pops up. And then because you're culturally conditioned to be nice and sweet, girl, you're not supposed to be angry, you suppress it again and again and again. And the more you suppress it, the stronger it becomes. And the more drama you have about it. That's why I have always the same story over and over, repetitive story, just people change in the story. The acting crew changes, but it's the same drama. Do you see what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter if it's drama, thriller, whatever. We all have different genre, but it's our life. And we are creating it from the point of suppressed emotions. Do you see the difference? How simple this is. And then when you are doing, it doesn't get any simpler than this. I'm trying to simplify this so the 5-year-old can understand me. But it's so funny because we blame other people, because the problem is we cannot see what's within us. But we can see what's around us. As Carl Jung stated, the shadow, the shadow is something that we can see in everybody else that drives us crazy, but we can never see that within us. So whenever you see things that drive you crazy in 1 or 2 people or more, you have to understand that that's your content that's looking for integration. So these people, especially your biggest enemies, are the biggest blessings. Why? Because they are here to make you aware what's within you that's screaming for healing. What's within you that's asking for healing. You see what I'm saying? So when that anger creates circumstances, you always, we say attract, but you don't attract. You actually create people in your life who have the same or complementary unconscious games. So they're there as well to integrate their anger. So let's say in the past, when somebody would piss me off, I would say, oh, you F, whatever, why are you doing this to me, blah, 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 and I will blame it on somebody else. Now, when I went through FAIR technique, I'm aware of what's going on. I'm like, oh, thank you so much for letting me know that I still have anger within me that's unhealed. So, and then I go and I say, because how you define any problem? Every problem has situation and reaction. Situation is situation that you're in. Let's say I have issue with my mom, dad, brother, sister, friend, school, politics, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's situation. To find out the reaction, I just ask myself, how do I feel about this situation? And then I get the emotion. And then I have a complete sentence that I need to solve. I feel blah, 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 anger, let's say, in regards to this situation. And then I can solve it. That's the beginning of it. But also through FAIR technique, you're finding out all the answers are within you. Everything is your own construct. So what FAIR technique does, when we remove energy and emotional charge from that construct disappears completely from your reality. So if you let anger to be integrated through the process, you will never again experience anger that's impulsive, compulsive by automatism that runs your life. You'll be able to experience anger, but the one that's proportional to the situation, not the one that overwhelms you and runs your life. Do you see what I'm saying? So you have no control over it. There's a huge difference there. So you understand it's all constructs. And you will learn that once you start studying the quantum medicine. You will learn that when you're healing, you're basically healing a construct. Because what happens, and most of the illnesses are 99% stress based. So accumulation, because what happens every time you have some sort of stress, you don't breathe. In that moment, amygdala releases cortisol to certain parts of the body. And when that happens, now we know that every emotion corresponds to a certain organ. So let's say sadness goes to your lungs, for example. And after a while, it accumulates too much emotional and energy stress into that parts of the body, that parts of the body start failing. Do you see what I'm saying? And that you're going to be healing people through that quantum medicine. But if you use FAIR technique, you can even heal them better. Because with most of the medicine that you have right now, they're dealing with the consequences. So let's say you have insomnia. You go to the doctor. If he's going to give you a pill for insomnia, he's not going to solve the cause of your insomnia. With our technique, we solve the cause. Am I killing you with the story? Am I giving you too much information? No, because you're going to be in quantum medicine, and you should know about FAIR technique because you can do so much more with it. So you're getting information. Everything is a construct. After FAIR technique, you understand that you are in charge of creating your own life. You're always a creator, just to mention. It's just a difference if you're creating from suppressed content, or once you remove the suppressed content, you have a freedom to create anything you want in life because it is your creation regardless. And that's the reason why all of this is happening right now with vaccines, with AI, artificial intelligence, so that you forget how powerful you are. And the reason why they're asking for your attention, because wherever attention goes, the energy goes. Yeah? And you are creating everything with your energy. So let's say, it doesn't matter if that energy is plus and minus. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. Do you see what I'm saying? So they want your energy so they can actually, okay, so let's do it this way, simplify. So everybody's reality is real from their point of view, yeah? But if you and I put our attention to somebody else's reality, we feed their reality, and that amount of energy that we feed their reality, it doesn't matter if we are for it or against it. Let's say when the vaccine started, I was so against it. And I realized, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm feeding that reality of the vaccines. So by me putting attention to fighting against it or being for it, doesn't matter what it is. It's just a game. It's a construct anyway. So me putting energy into it, I was feeding it with it. And for the amount that I'm feeding them, my reality becomes weaker. So that's why so much money and marketing, because before you had vaccines as well, but they didn't have such a good marketing and the government was not involved. Do you see what I'm saying? This time they took it seriously, like, okay, let's just make this reality the most real reality of all. So every time we put our attention to anybody else's reality, we are feeding it with our own energy. And we're making that reality more real than any other reality. Do you see what I'm saying? How powerful the human beings are, but they don't know that. Through FAIR technique, you understand that. Not just understand on a cognitive level, but you know. Because after you strip all the constructs, by the end of the session, you understand who you really are. What's your base? And base of everything that exists, it's just love and peace. So once you come to that feeling and understanding, it's just a feeling and understanding, but you know, I know who I am from that point on. And from that point on, when you know who you are, nothing anybody else says and do can get it away from you because you understand that you are pure love and peace. And everything else is just a construct that you identify with, you feed it with your own energy, and you believe that was a reality. Through FAIR, all of that falls apart. And you know what's going to happen? For the first time in my life, or your life, or anybody else's life who does FAIR technique, you're going to fall in love with yourself. Not identification, not I'm a doctor, I'm a scientist, I'm a psychologist, I'm a smart woman, blah, whatever. No, you're going to fall in love with your core self, who you really are. And that's pure love and peace. And from that point on, nobody can manipulate you, because you know who you are and you know this is your reality and everything's happening for a reason. But the reason that's happening is so you can integrate and let go of the stuff that you're holding on into your subconscious, stuff that we're suppressing, repressing, and denying or running away from. You know what I mean? There's nothing to run away from, because it's all your creation anyway. You know, you can take the girl out of the village, but you can't get the village out of the girl. You know what I mean? So to simplify what's going to happen once you start falling in love with yourself, true self, then in your life, the person that you're with or somebody else will show up, you will feel so much love towards that person. And that's completely different level of love. That kind of love, it's the highest level of existence. That you give somebody love, but that love goes in every direction and heals you too. I don't know, they call it probably unconditional love, but this is even higher level of unconditional love, because you love that person so much, but in the same time, by giving them, tenfold comes back, and that same love like overwhelms you that you are so blown away with it. So when you experience all of this with FAIR, you will understand the construct. You never have relationships with other people. Other people are just blessings or mirrors that makes us aware what's within us that needs heal. You understand that every relationship, especially emotional relationships, are here just for the healing purposes, so we can heal one another, not argue. People don't get that, you know. And you will understand that all the answers are already within you. There's nobody, and all the knowledge is within you. Because when you're in a place of here and now, when your left and right brain hemisphere are balanced, and you come in that place of oneness or here and now, all knowledge is accessible to you. And you understand that all the other stuff is just a construct, but all the knowledge is already within you. There's nothing for you to learn. When people say, oh, I'm here to learn my lessons. No, you're not. You're here for the experience. All the knowledge is already within you. Do you see what I'm saying? So from that perspective, when people experience FAIR technique and they go to a whole process, yeah, it lasts 2.5 hours. So what? In 2.5 hours, you solve 10 major issues from your life that it will take you 20, 30 years of therapy on a couch somewhere. You know what I mean? So is it worth 2-3 hours? Of course it is. Not only are you going to solve the problem that you choose to start it with, but you're going to solve like 10, 20, 30 other problems, especially from your childhood, the core stuff that you still carry with you. And that changes everything. So yeah, I know you're excited about quantum medicine, but this is something you have to know. You have to be aware. Most people don't have a clue what it is, because they're unaware that it exists.